I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine it's 1995. A man walks into a bar. He has a steady job. He owns a car. He's reasonably nice looking. He offers to buy a woman a drink. That's it. That's the whole package. And for many women at that time, that was enough. More than enough, actually. That was considered a good catch. Now fast forward to today. That same man walks into the same bar, same job, same car, same drink offer. And do you know what happens? Nothing. Actually, worse than nothing. He's invisible, because what women expect from men today has changed so dramatically, so fundamentally, that men who haven't updated their operating systems are literally becoming irrelevant in the dating market. Today, I'm revealing the modern female expectation list that nobody's talking about openly. Not the surface stuff you already know. Not the be kind, be loyal platitudes. The real, non-negotiable, often unspoken expectations that determine whether a man even gets a first date recently, let alone a relationship. And number 3 on this list, it's going to shock you because it contradicts everything you've been told about what women want. Expectation number 1, emotional intelligence, is the new six-pack men have been told for generations. Get muscles, get money, get status. That's what women want. And sure, those things still matter, but they're no longer the main event. They're the opening act. The headliner, emotional intelligence. Women today expect men to have what I call emotional fluency, the ability to name emotions, yours and hers, the capacity to sit with discomfort without fixing or fleeing, the skill to navigate conflict without aggression or avoidance, the awareness to recognize when you're triggered, and the tools to regulate yourself. Here's what this looks like in practice. A woman shares something difficult from her day. The 1995 response. Here's how to fix it. The 2024 expectation. Tell me more about how that felt. I'm here with you in this. This isn't about being soft. This is about being competent in the most complex domain of human experience, emotions. And women are no longer willing to be emotional kindergarten teachers for grown men. They expect you to have done your homework. They expect you to speak the language. Expectation number 2, the end of the provider. Fantasy, the rise of the partner. Reality for centuries. The deal was simple. Man provides resources, woman provides domestic and emotional labor. That deal is dead. Completely. Irrevocably. And men who are still trying to make that deal are finding themselves on the wrong side of history. What women expect now isn't a provider. It's a partner, and the difference is everything. A provider brings home money. A partner brings home money, emotional support, domestic labor, mental labor, and equal investment in the relationship's success. A provider says, I work hard so you don't have to. A partner says, let's both work hard at what we're good at, and let's both rest equally. A provider creates dependency. A partner creates interdependence. And here's the crucial part. Women don't just expect you to do chores. They expect you to see chores. They expect you to notice what needs doing without being told. They expect you to carry the mental load of running a household equally. If you're thinking, but I make good money, that should count for something. You're missing the point. Money doesn't buy you out of emotional labor anymore. Your 6-figure salary doesn't excuse you from noticing the toilet paper is running low. Expectation number 3, the shocking truth about masculinity. This is the one nobody's saying out loud. This is the expectation that contradicts all the traditional advice. Ready? Women don't want alpha males anymore. They don't want dominant men. They don't want men who are constantly proving their masculinity through aggression, control, or dominance. What they want is what I call integrated masculinity. The man who is strong enough to be vulnerable, confident enough to not need to dominate, secure enough to not need constant validation, assertive without being aggressive, protective without being possessive, leaderly without being controlling. The alpha male trope, it's become a red flag. Because women have learned that men who need to prove their alpha usually have deep insecurities. Men who talk constantly about dominance are usually compensating for something. Men who see relationships as power struggles are exhausting. What women expect now is a man who's so secure in his masculinity that he doesn't need to perform it. A man who can cry at a sad movie and then go fix the leaky faucet. A man who can ask for help and still be respected. A man whose strength comes from self-awareness, not from dominating others. This is the biggest shift nobody's talking about. The death of performance masculinity. The birth of authentic masculinity. Expectation number 4. The friendship requirement. Here's another expectation that's completely new. Women expect to like you as a person, not just be attracted to you as a mate. In the past, relationships often worked like this. Attraction leads to dating, leads to marriage, leads to, hopefully, becoming friends somewhere along the way. Now, that sequence is reversed. Women expect friendship first. They expect to genuinely enjoy your company. They expect shared values, shared humor, shared interests. They expect to be able to hang out with you the way they hang out with their best friends, with ease, with laughter, with comfort. The old model said, "Find a good husband." The new model says, "Find your best friend who you also want to sleep with." This means your personality matters more than your resume. Your sense of humor matters more than your salary. Your ability to have a deep, engaging conversation matters more than your ability to make grand romantic gestures. Women are no longer willing to trade companionship for companionship. They want the whole package: lover and friend, partner and playmate. Expectation number 5. The therapy mindset. 10 years ago, if a man said he was in therapy, some women might have seen it as a red flag. Today, not being in therapy, or at least not having done significant self-work, is becoming the red flag. Women expect men to have what I call a growth mindset about their own psychology. They expect you to know your attachment style, understand your triggers, have done work on your childhood wounds, have healthy coping mechanisms, not just video games and beer. Be able to communicate your needs clearly, know your boundaries, and how to hold them. This isn't about being perfectly healed. It's about being actively healing. Women are tired of being unpaid therapists for men who refuse to do their own work. They're tired of navigating minefields of unprocessed trauma. They're tired of relationships that feel like emotional rehabilitation centers. What they expect now is a co-healer, someone who's doing their own work while they support you in doing yours. Someone who understands that a healthy relationship requires two mostly healthy people. Expectation number 6. The full life mandate. This expectation is particularly brutal for men who center their lives around dating. Women are no longer attracted to men who make them the center of their universe. It used to be romantic. You're my everything. Now it's concerning. Why don't you have your own everything? Women expect men to have full, rich, meaningful lives outside of the relationship. Friends, hobbies, passions, purpose, growth trajectories. They expect you to be a complete person who chooses to share your completeness with them, not a half person who needs them to become whole. This manifests in very practical ways. She expects you to have your own friends, so she's not your entire social life. She expects you to have your own hobbies, so she's not your entire source of joy. She expects you to have your own goals, so she's not your entire purpose. She expects you to have your own inner world, so she's not your entire emotional support system. The most attractive thing you can be in 2024 is a man who doesn't need a relationship to be happy, because that means when you choose a relationship, you're choosing it for the right reasons. Not to fill a void, but to share abundance. Expectation number 7. The communication standard. This is where most men fail without even realizing it. Women's expectations around communication have evolved light years beyond what was acceptable even 10 years ago. It's no longer enough to just communicate. Women expect what I call conscious communication. This includes the ability to have difficult conversations without defensiveness, the willingness to be vulnerable without making it her job to fix you, the skill to listen actively, not just wait for your turn to talk, the emotional regulation to not escalate during conflict, the self-awareness to know when you need space and how to ask for it healthily, the consistency between your words and your actions. And here's the kicker. Women are now evaluating your communication skills from the very first interaction. How you text, how you ask for a date, how you handle scheduling, how you respond when she sets a boundary. It's all data. And by the time you get to the first date, she's already gathered enough data to know whether you meet the communication standard. Expectation number 8, the values alignment imperative. This might be the most important expectation of all, and the one men most often overlook. Women today are not just looking for a partner, they're looking for a values match. And I'm not talking about surface values like family is important or honesty matters. I'm talking about deep operational values, how you treat service workers, your relationship with money, your views on gender equality, your approach to consent and boundaries, your environmental consciousness, your political and social justice positions, your spiritual or philosophical framework. Women are no longer willing to agree to disagree on fundamental values. They're no longer willing to build lives with men whose values don't align with theirs because they've learned the hard way that values mismatches create slow, corrosive resentment that destroys relationships from the inside out. Here's what makes these expectations so challenging for many men. They're not a checklist you can fake. You can't pretend emotional intelligence. You can't perform authentic masculinity for long. You can't fake a growth mindset. You can't pretend to have a full life. You can't fake values. These expectations require genuine internal development. They require doing the work on yourself. They require becoming a different kind of man than you might have been raised to be. And that's why so many men are struggling, because they're trying to meet 2024 expectations with 1995 programming, and it doesn't work. If you're feeling overwhelmed by this list, I understand. This represents a fundamental rewriting of the masculine script. But here's the good news. These expectations aren't arbitrary. They're the blueprint for becoming not just a better partner, but a better human. Working on emotional intelligence makes you better at everything in life. Developing authentic masculinity makes you more confident and secure. Building a full life makes you happier regardless of relationship status. Improving communication improves every relationship you have. Aligning with your values gives your life integrity. Meeting these expectations isn't about pleasing women. It's about upgrading yourself. And when you upgrade yourself, you naturally become more attractive, not just to women, but to opportunities, to friendships, to life itself. After all these expectations, let me give you the simple core truth. Women don't want perfect men. They want evolving men. They don't expect you to have everything figured out. They expect you to be figuring it out. They don't expect you to never make mistakes. They expect you to take responsibility when you do. They don't expect you to be emotionally perfect. They expect you to be emotionally honest. They don't expect you to be a superhero. They expect you to be a human being, flawed, growing, trying, learning, becoming. The man who wins in modern dating isn't the man with the most money or the best looks. It's the man with the most self-awareness, the most emotional courage, the most commitment to growth, the most authentic presence. Here is my final word to all men watching. You have a choice. You can see these expectations as an impossible burden, or you can see them as an invitation to become the best version of yourself. You can complain that women's standards are too high now, or you can rise to meet them. You can cling to outdated masculine models, or you can pioneer a new kind of masculinity, one that's strong enough to be soft, confident enough to be vulnerable, secure enough to be equal. The women have evolved. The question is, will you? Because the man who meets these expectations, he's not just getting dates. He's building a life worth living. He's creating relationships worth having. He's becoming a person worth being. And in the end, that's what this is all about. Not meeting women's expectations, exceeding your own. Which of these expectations surprised you most? Are you meeting them, or do you have work to do? If this gave you clarity about modern dating, hit like and subscribe. We're creating more content about navigating relationships in the 21st century. And remember, the best way to meet high standards is to become a high standard man. Not for her, for you.